and I'm really glad to be here today. I'll just start with my presentation and then. So I'm going to start with a little story, okay? So this is Sonia, and I come with a computer science background. So all my talk is a little bit technical based because I have brought all those learnings from computer science into community development and brought it actually into action and practice. So if you look at the top corner picture, right, this is a typical fish vendor for all of you who visited India during the IICT exchange program. You have visited these entrepreneurs when you've come to Pune city. So when, these are different people from the groups that we work with, and what one of the fish vendors asked me was that, there are apps for everybody. Why don't you have an app for us? And coming from the background of computer science, I spoke to a couple of IT people and I said, why don't we have any app for, these street vendors? And they said, oh, well, the overall would be very high and, they won't be able to use it. Tell me one thing, I will talk about the lockdown situation just after this slide. When fish is a fresh purchase, right? And fish in India is expensive, right? So the capital that a fish vendor has to deploy for this business is high. And honestly, all of you tell me that will you ever buy stale fish, right? If it doesn't get sold today, it's zero income for our vendor. Another second example that you'll see is typical of all Indian towns, cities, villages, everywhere. You'll have these garlands because everybody, put fresh garland to the idol they worship or outside their door, in shops. Another challenge was that if they are not able to sell, right, because of the lockdown, this is also another perishable thing, right? So whatever they have bought in the morning, if they are not able to sell by 11 a.m. is when the lockdown begins, the curfew starts, it's completely takes them to a loss in business. Coming to the situation in India, I belong to Maharashtra, which is here, and I've intentionally put up the map of India because you will see that we were really bad in April. Okay, and 2020 was when we thought that, we were reading up of cases of people getting affected by COVID in the newspaper. But when 2021 came, it was like every family had somebody affected. And we started losing lives, right? It was like, especially in the age group 25 to 35. And obviously, what did that lead to? That led to a success, two lockdowns for us and closure of all non-essential businesses. Okay. Now, anything like this happens, it's the poor that get impacted first, right? So this is a study that's, I have put data from studies, right? I was telling you I'm back computer science background. I like to work with data. I'm not going to get into data, but this is just to give you an idea where we are. But what I want to stress about it is loss of urban livelihoods. Okay, so it was the daily wage earners, the migrants, the domestic workers, the people who come for household work, and of course collapse of small businesses. Now, another thing that has happened, which was not in 2020 but has happened in 2021, is that the consumer anxiety has increased, right? So I was doing a session last week and I asked all the participants, right? So how many new clothes have you bought in the last 1 year? And everybody was like, maybe once, maybe not at all. So if we are going to have this kind of a sentiment, right, of this fear and uncertainty and anxiety, as it is, the disposable income that is being spent is less, right? And this is one of the impacts that we've seen. And this is, the fear that 58 consumers say that their income will be lower than pre-COVID levels. So this was just to give you an idea of the context in India. This is development support team. This is our women. This is the happy times we had before COVID. This is a picture of the Women's Day celebration in March 2020. Okay, just a week later we went into lockdown. So you can see the number of women all dressed up. If you come to India, you'll see they're all wearing their favorite saris and all of it. Now we work in the self-group federation model where we, work in collectivization. So the picture that you see is of our rural groups. We have urban groups as well in DST. Now, primary work was on 100% financial inclusion. doorstep access to safe savings and credit options for women. DST has done a lot of work in financial literacy and skill building. So the picture below that you see here is of an in-person skill development session, right, for women entrepreneurs. That's how we used to do it earlier. Now, owing to all this work that DST has done, we have seen a 30% growth in the increase of women entrepreneurs. And actually, 2019, when I came to Scotland, my presentation was on DigiShakti because 2018 was when we started this journey of empowering women. And I would like to share one thing there. You know, that is the time we were talking about women having fear to use technology and all of that. And while we were in that session, I remember 3 other presenters with me. And, you know, one of the comments that they made, and that's like stuck in my head since then, was, you know, Sonia's presentation talks about like having a posh park in your garage and not knowing how to use it, right? If you have a smartphone and you fear using it. So that is all that DST has worked on through DigiShakti on empowering women to overcome the fear of technology, starting to use the mobile phone for daily life activities. And believe me, that worked for us because there were no physical visits to the communities, no platforms to share problems, right? How do we reach to them? Zero revenue, okay? Lack of working capital and collapse of businesses of monthly turnover of 130 to 49. So this is 10,000 Indian rupees to 100,000, which I've just converted to US dollars so that everybody gets an idea. Now, what happened for us because of DigiShakti being there? Our women immediately adapted to online tools, right? The transformation was not that difficult. So the picture that you see here is of a Zoom meeting of our community women. So they did not have fear. They were ready to click on the link and join the meeting. Obviously, we helped them, turning on audio, video, doing all of that. But we were able to use these online tools to conduct community meetings, do data collection, do needs assessment. And another change that came in was, and this was something that we've been working, basically training master trainers so that there is local resources. And I'm sure all of us during COVID have realized that because we can't go to the communities, building resources in the community is extremely important. So that was the model we used, and we were able to reach out to more than 15,000 vulnerable and marginalized communities. And these communities were not organizations I've ever worked with before. Okay, so what happened during this time was I became part of the COVID Action Collab that we have at the national level. We are 400 organizations, and like the presentation in the keynote, like they were mentioning that what we need to bring all our strengths together and collaborate. So it's very interesting, that how, so I'm sure all of you are aware of Save the Children. So one of the organizations that connected to me was Save the Children, and the others were smaller organizations. And I would also like to share, that it brought me so much joy that I was able to build capacities, right? I was able to take the skill of being online to reach out to so many more people. And another area that we saw a paradigm shift was, I'm sure all of you order stuff online, right? It's like the thing to do. But what happens to our women? And so what happened was that when we had the collapse of livelihoods, we started working towards revival. And what we did was mapped existing to current market needs. So since women were not buying new saris, there was no work of tailoring happening. All the tailoring stores were closed. So what we did was we tied up with a for-profit who was doing gifts for Diwali. Diwali is the festival of lights in India. And, we started making cloth bags for her so that, they were doing corporate gifting and all sorts of things. But we started telling them to make stuff which could be used there. What they needed was working capital, so as small as 5,000 rupees, right? It was not very high. And the main thing that we worked was empowering them with digital payments. So this was the transition that we did. So if you see the picture of this vegetable vendor, okay, this is my vegetable vendor in the locality. So I taught her to create a WhatsApp group of all the clients around, okay, and she does this photograph of vegetables of the day, okay, and she gets orders on WhatsApp and she uses Google Pay to receive payment and delivers the vegetable. So she's a young girl, okay? She must be what, 19? And her father, who's actually the vegetable vendor, would refuse to take a single order on the phone. He used to say, if you want the vegetables, please come here and collect. But this was a transformation that we had to do, right? How do they survive? And she, being young, had no fear to technology, and she was like easy with all that. And I have a LinkedIn post on her. So if anybody is interested, you should go and see that. Impact of Digi Shakti is basically survival during the second lockdown. Our self-help groups emerged as frontline workers. We enabled information dissemination on government policy measures and social protection programs. What we were able to ensure that no beneficiary missed it, right? In the first lockdown, the problem was how do we get to them, right? So this digital strategy really helped. We did the partnerships that I've already spoken about. I won't go back there. And Vastra is a women's group of 30 tailors that till today, we started this group 6 months ago, have received orders for 150,000 masks. And the picture that you see here is of all the masks that they've made. The nice thing that I saw was that the girls from Vastra started taking online tailoring classes for other tailors, okay, in the rural. So by that, they've actually used their online skills, okay, and so we have them also part of this group now. Now we did something known as non-traditional skill training for women in making electric lights. These are lights. These are those fairy lights that you put up. Those are used during festive season. So this year we'll be able to promote them more through digital marketing because when the festive season begins, this is the next step. So what happened was that seeing this working very well in urban, in close quarters, we have expanded this to 20 villages. So we call them the Smartpur, okay? Smartpur means the smart city now. So it's a village, so it's called Smartpur. Now here only 30% women have access to smartphones and internet. So we've set up digital centers where they will be able to avail digital services. And if you see all these youngsters in the picture there, I took an in-person training for them to basically equip them with online tools. Okay, these are all village youngsters whom we've equipped. One of the most important things I taught them was staying safe online, because I was worried that, and this happens with everybody, that you get access to internet, you get access to devices and you go crazy on social media. So this was one of the important, one of the important parts that I take in training. And of course, digital marketing for entrepreneurs. So this is our rural program now. This is my dream of enabling digital space for rural and urban entrepreneurs. I want them to be like this, be on a platform. I want to take you back to this slide. I don't want them to be stuck at these flyers here, right? I want them to be enabled to this professional space. So that's what I'm currently working on. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we will be able to get them there, because I want this space exclusively for community entrepreneurs. That's it. I will stop here, and I have kept my email ID. Yeah, and thank you so much for a patient listening.